Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I love how she gets things done. So it was just a few weeks ago, we were talking about how stressed out women are nowadays. You know, being a mom, being a parent, moving life forward, trying to advance your career, all of that. And it's a stressful situation. So what does she do? She comes up with an informational webinar to help women out. And she just rolled it out recently, and it's great to have her back on. She's all about the Health Education Resources Network, and she is Dr. Melissa Oden. Welcome back, Melissa.
Thank you. Great to be back.
Oh, it's great to have you here. You're like a breath of fresh air for women everywhere that are dealing with a lot of stuff, and stress is definitely one of them. Your informational webinar was called Women and Stress, Reclaiming Your Life, right?
Yes, and that's the name of the digital course that will hopefully be rolling out at the end of the month. I'm working real hard on that. So yeah, that's the plan.
Awesome. When we say informational webinar, do women still have access to this, or was it one and done?
Yes, actually they do. There is a recording, and I can certainly make that available to anyone who wants that. So yeah, however we want to do that is fine with me.
Cool. I got to imagine that if you're a woman and you're listening now, maybe you found us, you did a search or whatever, and you found this podcast, you're probably really busy. You're probably doing other things as you're listening or watching right now. So can we talk about some of those things to help women in dealing with stress?
Yeah, so I think first of all, it's really important to understand that we're talking about a specific clinical diagnosis called the female stress syndrome, and most women don't even know that they have it. And so there are certain things that will indicate whether or not you are leaning in that direction or whether or not you've already fallen into that pool, right? So when I was doing my research, there's a physician named Dr. Vern Cherewentinko, and I always hope I'm saying his name correctly because it is so long. In his book, he says that his patients call him Dr. Vern, so that's what we're going to call him too. But he says that the female stress syndrome occurs when a woman experiences persistent and recurring feelings of sadness, being overwhelmed, dealing with exhaustion, physical, emotional, mental exhaustion, extreme anxiety, anger, rage, tension, irritability, or just a general feeling of being out of control. And I would say that most women I talk to would raise both hands that they've had at least one of those symptoms recently, if not more of those, in the very recent past. And so those are the types of things that we're talking about. So that's kind of the overall umbrella that we're talking about here when we talk about women and stress and what is termed the female stress syndrome.
Wow. So this is a real thing, clinically diagnosed? Wow.
Yes. And sadly, most physicians don't recognize that as such. And so, as a health educator, I try to help women understand what they're dealing with so that they can become partners with their physician and talk with them about these things so that they can get proper treatment.
I'm glad we're talking about it here. So when it comes to a woman that's dealing with a lot of stress, what do they do at that point?
So it depends. It depends on who they are. It depends on the paradigm that they live in. For me, I go to natural health practices, but for a lot of women, and when I was working in a general practice, long before I ever got my first degree, I worked in a physician's office in general practice. And I began to see these things long before I ever started to study this. So women would come in with very non-specific things, like I have a headache, I have a stomach ache, I just don't feel good. That was the main thing. And so most of the time they would come in saying this, and then, we would get the claim form and it would say, headache not otherwise specified, or NOS, which basically means we don't know what's wrong with you. And so which is not very encouraging to a woman who is seeking assistance. So they would get just some sort of general advice or treatment or whatever, but the problem would persist. And the more that we've learned about this, the more we understand how, and I think we've talked about this before, how the mind controls the body, not the other way around, right? So if you're stressed out and you're having mental challenges, and I don't mean that in a negative way, I just mean if you're under a lot of stress and you're mentally stressed or irritable or whatever it is we just mentioned, right? That you're going to need some special attention to be able to handle those things. So a woman can go to their primary care physician and get some of those things handled. Sometimes they go to their OB-GYN, especially if it's during the period of time where they can get a well woman exam. They'll mention that to their gynecologist. Some of us go the natural health route. right? Because we know that the body has everything it needs to heal itself. Sometimes it just needs a little help. So it really kind of depends on what paradigm you live in and what you're most comfortable with in terms of how you want to handle that.
Should you start with your primary care physician with this? Or you just said you could go to the OBGYN, but that's your starting point? What if you're not, what if they're not dealing with it? Like we just said before, a lot of times doctors don't see it, or they don't talk about it, or maybe they throw a med at you. Where do you go from there?
You know what? Life coach would be good.
Hmm.
Life coach would
Great.
be good. And also therapist. I mean, I'm also a social worker, so I am not opposed to any of that whatsoever. And in fact, there are a lot of great licensed clinical level social workers, which I am not, but licensed clinical social workers who are trained in this and can really help someone navigate those thought processes and all of the things that they may be dealing with to overcome this. But also life coach is a good idea too. So again, it really depends on who you are, how much money you have to spend, what your insurance looks like, those types of things. So women have options. I just don't think some of them know what they are necessarily.
Can you share, Melissa, some of the things from the webinar that can help women out?
Absolutely. So let's talk first of all about how does stress affect women and why this is so incredibly important and why I feel like it's a critical public health issue. First of all, it is the number one killer of women. And in terms of why that is so, and that is because it weakens the cardiovascular system. So heart disease actually is the number one killer of women. It's not breast cancer. It's not anything else, regardless of what the media will tell you. It is heart disease. And the reason it doesn't get much press is because it's just not that sexy, right? The heart is just not that sexy. So it's kind of it's an under discussed topic. So first and foremost, stress weakens the cardiovascular system. So we want to be sure that we're addressing that first, because stress will kill women faster than anything. It also weakens the immune system. If we have learned nothing over the last 3 years, we know that a strong immune system is critically important to whether or not we survive certain things. And that has always been true, by the way. It's not just because of what we experienced in the last 3 years. It's always been true. But that fact has been highlighted by the fact that we have been fighting for our lives over the last 3 years. And then finally, stress is associated with anxiety and depression. So a lot of women who find themselves anxious or depressed probably don't realize that they're experiencing the female stress syndrome and that they do have some options for themselves. As I mentioned, I have, 3 pages of symptoms that women may be experiencing, and it tends to be a little overwhelming. So if you want to talk about that, we can.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah. I think if you're stressed, you probably have a pretty good idea, when you take a second to step back and look at your life and all the stuff that's going on in your life. Unless you want to share some of the symptoms. Oh, how about this? How about the symptoms that we might not think of?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Let me just highlight the ones that, people might not really associate with stress.
Sure.
So muscle aches. Muscle aches can be considered when you're like abnormal throat sensations. If you're having trouble swallowing, if you're having hair loss. That's how I was tipped off when I was in grad school that I was having this, is that I actually lost a bunch of my hair were like right back here when I was in grad school. And so when I started reading all of this, when I was doing this research, I was like, whoa, that's what's wrong with me. So that's kind of what started me down my own path. If you have unhealthy nails, if you have low motivation, arthritis and joint aches, people tend to think of that as a autoimmune disorder, but it doesn't have to be. It can actually be related to stress. If you have decreased concentration or heat or cold intolerance, people laugh at me all the time because I'm always cold. But if you struggle with that like consistently, and also if you have light headaches, and what I mean by that is if light bothers you and you've never been diagnosed with migraines before, then you might be suffering from stress. That may be what it is.
Wow.
If you have dry eyes and blurred vision, and sometimes infertility. So those are just some of the things that women may not think of when they think of, am I stressed or not, or why am I having these issues?
I'm glad we did that. And that was just some of them.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things you might not even think of. You might even think, muscle aches and things like that. Well, maybe it's my cycle, maybe it's menopause kicking in, maybe early menopause. You'll come up with reasons for it and might not point the finger at stress. Do you find in dealing with people that a lot of times doctors will give a medication like for anxiety, depression, when it really comes down to stress.
Yes. And I think that's why some women decide to go a different route besides their physician. And by the way, there are a lot of great physicians out there.
Sure.
There are a lot of great nurse practitioners out there. There are a lot of great PAs out there who will actually take time to listen to you. But I think what it comes down to is really just a woman wants to be heard. She wants to be able to get things off her chest and be heard and not be brushed off. And I think that's why some of us seek treatment outside of the regular Western medicine paradigm, because we tend to be heard a little bit more. And so, yeah, I think that medications are probably prescribed maybe a little bit more than they should be, when really what we need is to be heard and given a safe space to be able to talk about. And that's what talk therapy is all about, right? I mean, that's just a safe place for you to just kind of verbally get everything out that you want to get out. And there's something very therapeutic about that with no medication involved. Now, let me also say this, because I know a lot of people may be upset with that. I am not against medication. If you need it, take it, right? Take it. But there are other ways. If you don't need it, and you are seeking other ways, just know that there are other ways out there.
I always look at it this way: try the other ways, and if it doesn't work for you, then now seek medication. It's there for a reason. It works for a lot of people, but I don't even want to take aspirin unless I have to. You know, I put a chemical in your body.
As a natural health practitioner, I've always said, look, if I'm in a car accident, do not give me a bottle of lavender and say, feel better and go have a good life. I need some medical attention, right? But a lot of folks, and here again, we come back to the hard part of this. This is where you have to have hard conversations with people. You have to be willing to do the work to get better.
Yes.
And I think that we're in a society where we live in what I call a microwave society, where we want everything right now. And unfortunately,
I call it the Amazon Society.
I like that better.
It's the one click. Oh, done. It's going to be here in an hour.
I know.
Literally, where I live, they just started delivering within the next like 4 hours on certain products. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
Like, I ordered, not to digress here, but I ordered a phone charging cord, and I was like, it's probably going to be a couple of days because mine broke. You know, let's see if I can find another one. 4 hours, done. So yes, that type of society is even speeding up now.
Yes, and I don't get it. I mean, listen, a phone cord is important, especially if you run a business a lot on your phone, but or if you have kids, or if you have something going on where you need, I get that.
You could also get in the car and drive to Best Buy.
You could.
Just saying.
Except if you're a Prime member, then probably you're getting that shipping for free, and it may be worth your time just to do that. I don't know.
Actually, I paid $2.99 extra for the Quick, and I'm on time. But you know what? I just wanted to see if it would get here in time.
Right?
But yes, you're right.
So for living in I like that better. I may just steal that from you. I will totally give you credit for that.
Yeah,
but if we are living in an Amazon society, then we expect that the things of our psyche and the things of our heart, and I don't just mean the thing that beats within you, those things cannot be fixed rapidly. You did not get to where you were in one day, and you can't get out of it in one day. And unfortunately, so many people just don't want to do the work that it takes to get to where they want to go. There are a lot of people who
look at it this way. You take that medication. Typically, it can take up to 6 weeks for it to kick in. And with that, you could have side effects as well. So that's not really a quick fix. So
right.
To your point, it took time to get there. You got to do the work to get out of there.
Right.
Yeah.
So at any rate, it behooves women, I think, to be in a place, and I think we've discussed this before, a healthy level of disgust is where you need to be before I think you really can start making some deep, long-lasting changes. And the other thing I would say is that if you've got a tribe around you that is supporting you and pushing you to your best, to be your best, first of all, if you don't have one of those, you need to get one of those. But second of all, if you've got those people around you, which is called social capital, then use that. That's why they're there. Listen to them, because they're seeing you from a very different perspective than you're seeing yourself. You're playing the game, and it's very difficult. I'm a huge football fan. And it's easy for me to sit on my couch and go, why did you run up the middle? And why did you keep doing that same play over and over and over? The hole closes up, right? But when you're playing the game, you don't see it from that perspective. There are other people around you who can see it. So you probably need to listen to those folks. If they're worth their weight in gold, they're telling you the truth.
And so is your body.
And so is your body. Yes, absolutely.
So where do we go from there? Now, you offer this informational webinar about women dealing with stress. How can you help women? Somebody's listening right now. It's like, oh, checking all the boxes. Yes, I've got that. I've got that. I feel that. I'm pretty sure it's stress that's going on. What can we do?
So let me give you the big overview of what the course looks like and hopefully pique your interest a little bit in taking that course. And again, if you want to see the informational webinar, I am happy to provide that for you. So actually, you can go on my website, drmelissaoden.com, and just put your name and email in there, and I'll be happy to send that to you. Or we can get it to the folks at PBNN. So basically, the overview of the course is the CALM method, CALM. Does that just not make you feel good to say that? We're going to use the CALM method to help you. So the C stands for create a vision for your life. There are so many women that I meet that don't know who they are, don't know where they're going, don't know how they're going to get there. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to get nowhere because you're going nowhere because you don't know how to get there, right? And a lot of times you just need some help kind of crafting that vision. And so there are going to be several lessons under that particular module that's going to help you really figure out who you are, where you're going, why you're here, and how to create a plan and execute that plan to get to where you want to go. Once you have that vision, then we get to the A part, which is the assess your current situation. So I think a lot of women are so entrenched in stress, they don't even know where they are. They don't know what's up from down. And I am speaking from experience. So please do not hear me judging you, ladies. I am not. I'm telling you, when you get that deep in the muck and the mire of stress, you really don't know which way is up or down or in or out or anything. So we're gonna do some evaluations and help you assess where you currently are before we go any further with that vision, because you got to know how to get out of the situation that you're in before you can move forward. So we're going to spend some time doing that. And then finally, L is learn new ways. You know, we are very routine oriented people. Are you a routine oriented person? Like, do you like routine? Yeah.
You're talking to a Virgo over here.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a Pisces. So, but what was that song? Pisces, Virgo rising. Anyway, there's something to that, right? But those of us who really like routine, like to be organized, all of those things, we want things in place. And once we find something that works, we like to keep it, don't we? Unfortunately, sometimes those old ways cannot solve new problems. And so we have to find new tools. I call them tools for your toolbox. So we're gonna figure out what your toolbox is. We're gonna figure out what's in there, and then we're gonna add some new tools in this particular module to help you learn some new ways in this new time to kind of deal with the stress that you're dealing with and whatever new situations have come up for you. Finally, we're gonna help you make a commitment. That's the M. We're gonna help you make a commitment to yourself, because here's the deal. You can throw confetti and say, yay, I'm gonna change, and balloons and all this stuff all day long. But until you're ready to make that commitment and know how to make that commitment, you're not going to be able to create sustaining, lasting change for yourself. So we are going to help you do all of that in these modules. So that is the overview.
I love it. I love it. It's so important. I'm glad we're talking about this. And even the clinically diagnosed syndrome, nobody talks about it. I've never heard it before. And it's real and it's been around.
Mm-hmm.
The webinar you did, can we find that online? Is that the starting point for this? Then it leads to the course that's coming out?
Yes, that's correct. So in fact, yes, it is uploaded on my website. If you go to drmelissaoden.com, there is a tab, I believe it says videos, and you just click on that. And every video I've done since I started this business is there. So you can take a look at all sorts of other stuff too. But yes, that webinar is there. If you can't find it for whatever reason, just send me an email and I will be more than happy to send that back to you.
I know this is probably going to be a challenging question to answer.
Oh dear. Okay.
She's right.
Lay it on me.
She's on the field and it's the fourth quarter. Back to football.
Yeah.
Somebody's listening and they know they need to put in the work to make a change. And everybody is different. Everybody's situation is different. You'll never find the exact same. They could be very close, but it'll never be exact. What do you think would be the minimum time for somebody to get out of that stressful life that they're leading and just feel that breath of fresh air. And it's like, all right, you know what? I'm good. And this is going to be good. And I can see how I'm going to progress to the next level, the next level, and the next level. What do you think?
Okay, in terms of a time frame, I can't give you that.
I think
However, I
that.
will say this. What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. If you go into the work with a sense of urgency that you need to get out, I will guarantee you that the universe is going to work for you and it's going to get you out of it a heck of a lot faster than what you think. Additionally, if you have your social capital, if you have that tribe around you that is helping you, that will also be a huge push forward in terms of helping you get out. And also, don't forget something that may be helpful to the viewers. We talked before about the mini course that I did this summer called Lost in the Woods. So this is kind of what you're referring back to, right? If you just feel that lost and you're down in the muck and the mire, that course is also available on my learning management platform. So it's called Lost in the Woods for Women. And this would be a great way for you just to kind of do some quick work. There's 5 lessons, super quick, to do some quick work to really kind of figure out how to get you out of that place. Now, men, don't worry, because I have a male counterpart who has agreed to partner with me to do a Lost in the Woods for Men. So that is coming. It will probably be after the holidays because we're all about to, everybody shuts down for the holidays, right? Everybody just kind of shuts down.
That's why I'm
but
stressed out.
probably, yeah, but probably coming in January, maybe late January. We will be doing Lost in the Woods for Men. So men, if you're feeling that same way, don't worry, we have some help coming for you. So just a side note, but yeah, I would definitely say that what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So if you have reached that healthy level of disgust and you're ready to get to work, I would say you would be out of it sooner rather than later. It also depends on the level of help that you're getting around you.
Right. For example, if you needed to take the time to focus on the course, you might have small kids. I need you to watch them. So that's your support system around you while you focus on yourself and take care of that.
Yeah.
On the guys, Lost in the Woods. I love that title. I think for me, it might be Lost in the Supermarket because when I'm I am. I keep going back to the same spots back and forth, and I have a list, and it still doesn't. It doesn't work. Yeah.
I know. I just did that this weekend, so I feel you on that. But or you walk past what you're looking for because wow, this is a great metaphor. You walk past what you're looking for because you're looking for something else down the other. You just totally miss it, right? Because you're not focused on the right thing. Yeah.
Right. And then you circle back. It's like, I got to go back all to I got to go to the dairy area.
Yeah.
I was just over there because I was thinking over here. But you know why? Because we're all stressed out.
Yeah.
We're all on a, thinking this, thinking that. We have literally a minute or so left. What would be one ironclad tip to a woman that's listening that is super stressed out? For me, the first thing I know it helps me, and this word always resonates, systems. I always put like a system in place, even if it's doing the laundry, if the lint goes in this bag, those kinds of things. Any thoughts, real quick on that?
So yes, I love that. Let me give more of a macro view of this. We need to realize that most stress comes from the things that we create in our own minds and that is not based in reality. And we really need to identify those things and handle them and then move on. So our perspective is everything when we're talking about managing our stress. If we think we see something one way, we literally need to say, okay, back that thing up and let's take a look at it another direction. Is this for real? You need to validate what you think you're seeing, because a lot of times you're not seeing what you think you're seeing. The other thing is, just like you said, just get started. Just get started. That's the hardest part of making a change in your life, is just getting started. If you're a writer, the hardest part is just to write those first couple of words, right? So if you can resonate with that, then you understand what I'm saying about just get started, because I think everybody knows what they need to do. They just need to find the courage to get started and then just start.
Jump off the cliff.
Yeah, Melissa, exactly.
You will catch them. The website again, drmelissaoden.com.
Yes.
Spelled like it sounds, Melissa and Oden, Dr. Dr, by the way, drmelissaoden.com. Just a great idea. And I'm glad you got it going and you got the course coming out, because it's such a big thing nowadays with women in stress, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me again today.
I appreciate it. It's great information. Go to the website, learn some more. And if somebody wants to to take a look at the webinar, they can find that link there?
Yes, absolutely. And again, if you can't find it, just reach out to me via that pop-up box, and you'll get the free Women in Stress journal. You can just download that for free, and then just be sure and give me a note that you couldn't find the video, and I'll be more than happy to send it to you.
Awesome. Always great having you on.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'll see you in the supermarket.
Yeah, sounds good.
We'll pass each other like 20 times or like 100 or whatever.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.